In this video, we're going to continue to design a website in Figma. And specifically, we're going to focus on the integrations page and start brainstorming and designing this part of the website. It's been a couple weeks since we've worked on this project, so let's waste no more time and dive right in. So integrations, in terms of what's actually going to be on this page, is basically a part of the page, a part of the website where you communicate which other third-party tools or apps or software your specific software or your specific service or product can work with, can integrate with, right? Hence the name. So basically what we are going to be doing, we're going to be preparing a page for a list of individual third parties, right? So you can imagine this as basically a matrix of individual integrations. And each of these is going to contain the name of the service, the name of the software our app is integrating with, and maybe there are going to be some hover interactions and all that stuff. So similarly to case studies and actually also the blog, you can see that we've been using components and variants of these components to replicate individual modules, individual components across the page. And this is going to be no exception, right? So as you can see here on the blog, we have the blog article preview component, the instances of which are displayed right here in this filter listing component. Basically, in case studies, it's the same. You have the case study preview component, which is then listed right here, and we are going to be doing something similar for integrations. So let's take a couple minutes to just go over the structure that I want this to have. I think it would be nice to have a headline directly in the middle, similar to what this placeholder for this page actually shows. So you would get a headline, then maybe another subheadline, right? Could be a paragraph of text. And then what we are going to do is make these individual modules interactive and reusable, basically. So what needs to happen, in my opinion, is to have a component that is going to contain another component, right? So we are going to be having a nested component situation going on. And this right here, that's going to be the integration logo. So let's say that our app is integrating with another app, right? There's going to be a lot of these apps, like 10 of them. So we are going to be using a component for an app or integration logo that is going to be nested inside of this integration component. So, and then in this integration component, you're going to basically get the integration name, right? And what I want to do in terms of interactions is that, of course, you're gonna get the logo because of this nested component, but then I also wanna make this react to a hover, right? So when you hover over this component, for example, this could happen where you would get a description of this specific app, and then maybe a call to action, something like learn more or something like that, right? And also we could do like an overlay. We could have this type of interaction where when you hover over this component, you're gonna get some more information other than to display them all at once right away, right? And also I think it would be a good idea to have 4 of them per one row. So this is going to be similar to our blog. And I think that in this episode, we're definitely not going to build the entire page. I think we could try and build just this component with this specific interaction, and then in future episodes continue building the rest of the page. So I am going to start doing that. Okay, so let's just examine what width this component, this article component has when placed on the page. So that's going to be 270 because we want to maintain this grid system that we have, these 12 columns. And as you can see, with the spacing that is most frequently used across our page, this one single component turns out to be 270. So we want to take that in, keep that in mind. And I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to select the blog page, then go over to layout grid, select this, copy that, and paste that on our integrations page. So right now we can see that our layout system, our layout grid system is translated into this page. That's great. So Remember, we said 270, so let me type in 270 with this. And I think we actually could start not with a rectangle, but rather with a frame. So let me use a frame tool and then create a frame that is going to be 270 by 320, 340, whatever. And this is going to be our base for our integration component. Okay, so let me just rename this to integration component, and we are going to be, or like maybe integration preview. Yeah, I think that will make the most sense since we have blog article preview and then case study preview. So integration preview makes the most sense, right? Then I'm going to do one thing, and that would be creating another frame that's going to be 270 by 270, and this is going to be our integration logo, right? So this is going to be our integration logo. Let's pretend for now that our integration logo, one of the services we integrate with is this circle, a very minimalist logo, I would say, definitely. But it's just a placeholder. So let's just keep this at integration logo. Make sure this circle, this logo, is actually constrained to center and center, so that when you resize this, it actually stays in the center. So that's our goal. I'm going to take this and turn it into a component. We have an integration logo component. Then I'm going to duplicate this. So I can press Option and then click and drag on this component, create an instance. So that's one way you can create an instance of this. And the second one would be going to Assets, and then under the current page name, right, the Figma page name, you would select integration logo and then drop that here. So there are two ways to produce an instance of a component. Right, so let's go back to layers, and I have an integration logo component, and I'm going to place that inside of our integration preview, and I'm going to align that to the center. So Option H and then Option W to align that to the top. And generally throughout this tutorial, if there's something that you do not understand how I created that, definitely check out the remaining episodes, all the other episodes in the playlist of designing a website in Figma. I designed all of this from scratch across these videos, so definitely if there's something you don't understand, maybe try and take a look at the previous episode of this series. So let's examine what do we have here. We have an integration preview frame that contains an integration logo component. And as we said, all of that is going to be component as well. So let's just create a component from this. So right now, as you can see, we have a component that contains a component instance. So whenever we change the component here, it updates here as well. So that's the principle of nested components. By the way, I also have a video on nested components, so definitely go and check out my channel. It's called Components Within Components Within Components, I think. And so right now I'm gonna go to case studies, and I am going to borrow this frame 20 from the case study preview component. Okay, so here we have something that we're going to need as well, or at least the structure, the basic parts of this. So let me just select this, Command C, go over here, and then Command V. Frame 20. Frame 20 is something that can do this. Okay, so it's a responsive module with text. The reason it's responsive is because these text objects are set to fill containers. So whenever I resize frame 20, I also resize this text object. And by the way, if you want to learn more about how to create responsive elements in Figma, also go check out my channel. I did a video specifically on this, on fill container. So let's just remove the remaining stuff that we don't need from this object. First of all, we don't need the hover state info because that's specific for this case study component. We also don't need this tag, and we also are going to need something on top of what's already in here, and that's going to be our description. So our description is going to be done through duplicating the headline and then changing the H4 headline to paragraph body text, and then I am going to type in something like, this app can integrate with our app and do all sorts of great stuff. It can do all sorts of great stuff. So this is going to be basically a description, but this first object right here, this headline, is going to be just basically app name, right? Or just integration name. And then this button right here is going to say like learn more. Read more can also be used, but you know, let's just make it learn more. And also let's just take a look at what color we use for paragraph text. We used black with the 50% opacity. So let me just do that here as well. So that's black with 50% opacity. That's great. And I'm going to rename this frame to integration details. Okay, so these integration details are going to be placed within this component. I am going to reduce the background opacity for this component, and then I'm going to select this, Command X, select the component, and Command V, right? So we have pasted this object into our integration preview component. I am going to reduce the size. I'm going to reduce this to 270, which is the width of our object. I'm going to press Option S to align this to the bottom, and then I am going to go to constraints and set the constraints to center and bottom. Actually, that's going to be not center, but left and right. Okay, why are we doing this? Let's take a look. I'm going to use an instance of this component, and as you can see, when I resize this thing right here is changing its size and staying on the bottom of this component, as opposed to the logo, which we are going to fix too, by the way. So this is the situation that we have going on right here, and that's exactly what we need. We need to make this responsive and flexible, right? So let me just reset these changes. I reset all changes. And for this component, this state to be specific, this description and the button, they are not going to be visible. So what I just did is I hid those, right? As you can see in integration details, these two layers are now hidden. And that is because we want to reveal those only on hovering, right? Remember this structure, we want to reveal those only on hover. So yeah, and I'm also going to increase the padding of this to 24 on all sides so that we don't get, 24 just on the top. And let me also select the integration logo within this component and set the constraints to left and right and top and bottom. You might also already have guessed why we are doing this. When I resize this component, the instance of this component, this happens, right? So the logo is being resized. Well, actually not the logo, but the logo container. So let me just remove the background from this. So that's going to be a transparent background. And yeah, if you now resize this, you can see how this container adjusts its size. That's exactly what we need. And now we can actually start doing some more adjustments, adding a rounding to this component. That's going to be 12, and then also adding this stroke to the entire object rather than just the integration detail. So let me just copy the stroke, Command C, click on this and Command C, select the whole component, Command V, and now we have a stroke on this whole object and not only this, right? So we are going to probably disable the stroke on this integration details component, object for now. And let me just show you basically what the final result looks like on the actual page. Let me hide these guidelines. So we have essentially this, right? We have essentially this where if we actually just enable the background for the logo placeholder, you're just gonna see like what exactly is happening when we resize this. So it's responsive, right? It is responsive and you can differentiate it against the white background. So that's what we need. I think that's nice. And yeah, let's just move on to the next stage, which would be creating another variant of this. So let me just click this icon and add a variant. I am going to rearrange these so that they are next to each other. Okay, so this is going to be the hover state. And the hover state is going to be, first of all these things are going to be visible. So the learn more, this description, all that is going to be visible. And additionally, as we said, we want to have this dark overlay over the icon. right, over the logo. So let me just reuse this rectangle. Actually, I'm gonna rename this to integration logo overlay, and then I'm going to press Command X, select the second variant, and Command V, and I'm going to move that behind this integration details, right? And I am going to place that right here. I'm gonna resize this so that it takes up the whole size. And again, the size of this is gonna be left and right, top and bottom. And basically what we got here is when I change the state to hover, it's also still responsive, including the overlay. Okay, so that's what we built. This is great. So let me just again reset the changes. Let me also do some naming audits very quick. So under properties in the integration preview, I'm going to change the property name to state, and we're going to have default and hover. Okay, so this is the default state, this is the hover state, and we are going to be going back and forth between those based on whether you're currently hovering over this object with your mouse in prototype mode. Let me just connect the first one and just go over to prototype and connect that to the second one. And we're gonna go for while hovering. Okay, so while hovering, change to state hover, right? Makes sense. And this is gonna be smart animate, and it's going to be ease out. It's gonna take like 240 milliseconds. Right? And now, not surprisingly, what's going to happen is that we will be able to hover over this and get some feedback, right? So also let me remind you of the fact that the whole structure of this page is readily functional. So you can browse through the home page, you can look through FAQs, read customer quotes, and then browse individual pages. So we did all of this in previous episodes of this series. We also have the contact us page with responsive, with interactive form fields, and all of this is we have done this across this series. So but right now we're focusing on integrations. Okay, so let me go back to integrations, and when I hover over this integration, this is what I get. So my goal here is, I like this, right? So you can you're not overwhelmed with the amount of information you're getting, especially if you're gonna get like multiple of these integrations. And we are going to be placing, as I said, like multiple of these. So let me turn on the guidelines again, and I'm gonna duplicate this 3 times, or in total, and then we're gonna have the second row. Okay, so let me just do that, 24. So when you're going to browse through the page, you're going to get all of these logos, all of these integrations, and then only when you hover, you're going to get some more detailed information on these individual integrations, right? So that's awesome. And as you can see, we are having one small issue. All of these are the same, all of these have a circle as a logo, and all of these have the same copy, right? That doesn't make any sense. These are just placeholders. So how do we make it easy to replace these with content? So that is a very good question, and to manage this, we are going to be using component properties and nested component properties. So imagine that with the integration logo, you're gonna get maybe 3 integrations. Let's say we're starting with 3 integrations. So just 3 of those. Each one of those is gonna be different. Of course, let's just keep using placeholders. So for this one, that's gonna be a square, and the last one's gonna be a triangle. Just very simple so that we can differentiate. Right? So that's what we have. The circle company, the square company, and the triangle company. And then let me select the integration name headline by command and clicking, and then selecting all 2 matching layers across both of these variants. So I selected both of these. Then under content, I'm gonna detach these properties, and under content, I'm gonna create a new one. So because we have reused this from case studies, we got this case study property, but let's just start over. So content, I'm gonna create a text property, and this is going to be integration name or headline, and the value is going to be integration name. Then additionally, what we're going to do is select this subheadline, select all 2 matching layers. This selects the second one as well, that is hidden. And again, content, detach property, create new property, create, right? And this is going to be integration description. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this whole component, and under properties, I'm going to click this plus right here. and click expose properties from nested instances. And then I am going to go for integration logo. And what this is going to achieve is this beautiful situation. So we not only have the integration name written right here, which we can change like this, change this, right? Enter. This reflects the integration name, but we can also switch over to the hover, and then we can change the integration description easily as well. Enter. Okay. And then we can go back to default, and I think this should stay set up, right? So we can go back to default, and then the integration logo, right? So this is going to be multiple companies. For this integration, that's going to be the Square company, right? So you can easily set up individual instances of this. You can have like dozens of logos, you can have dozens of individual names, and the component properties that we have just set up enables you to change this easily, prepare the design for such situations very easily, right? So let me continue and do the last one. So the last one is going to be third integration. Let's say the integration logo is going to be variant 3. That's going to be the triangle company. And then we're going to switch over to hover and just adjust the description. And if you have shorter description, that's no issue, because thanks to the structure that we have set up, you can see how the shorter variant, it sticks to the bottom. So whenever you get a longer description, you know, it pops up more, and when it's shorter, it stays towards the bottom more. So let me change that back to default, and let's go back to the prototype, to the preview, go to integrations, and then let's just test what we have created, right? So as you can see, we have integration name with logo 1, change this with Square logo, and then third integration with the triangle logo. And each of these has different subheadlines, different descriptions. So very easy to change, very easy to adjust. Of course, if there is like a logo update, maybe this is no longer a Square company, but it's a rectangle company, that's no problem, because everywhere where this component is used, this is going to be updated as well, right? So let me just reset this integrations. The logo is easily updated. So yeah, I think that's it for today. The tutorial is already getting long, but in general, it's important to remember that when you are designing a website or a UI, it's always beneficial to use components, because then any change, any modification in design, any update of any visual resources is very simple. You can maintain the flexibility, and this ensures that when, for example, you use something across your page multiple times, you don't have to correct every single quote-unquote instance. You just can adjust this from one single place, right? So what I have in mind is that, for example, if we decided that suddenly we want this area to be gray instead of white, I can easily change that here, and then it's going to be reflected across the whole design. So it's very practical, very fast, and honestly makes the most sense. It's also easy to hand over to developers. So yeah, in the upcoming episodes, we're going to be finalizing the integrations page. We're going to be taking advantage of this hover interaction to just make this more easy to comprehend. And we're gonna add the subheadline, and then we're gonna maybe eventually do one single integration page. So basically the thing that you get to when you click these individual integrations. So yeah, go check out the previous episode of designing a website in Figma. There's already 25 episodes, I think. And yeah, if this video helped you, let me know by leaving a like. If there's anything unclear, let me know by leaving a comment with a timestamp, ideally. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.